McGhee with YETicket.com. Well, I'm here to talk about a subject that is hard to take in, but it's really around the world, what's going on with our kids and things like that. Stephen Peek and Maria Peek, they are part of productions and things like that. I'll let them talk about it. Let's start off with Maria. First of all, what am I talking about? What's the name of your document?
Our documentary is called Sextortion, the Hidden Pandemic. It's a feature documentary that is going to premiere at Santa Barbara International Festival on March 3rd.
And also, this word, sextortion. I never heard of it before. Is this a new word? It's probably been around for a while, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, especially this word. I know they talk about what's happening to the people online and things like that, but I never heard this word before.
Yeah, that was kind of a big surprise for us 2 years ago. I didn't even know what sextortion was. And as we go through that phase early in the documentary that I call drinking from a fire hose,
right,
we started finding the insane scale that this is happening and no one's talking about it. One of our partners in the film is the NCMEC, who's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And in 2019, there were 16 million reports to the cyber tip line. 2020, it jumps up to 21 million. In 2021, it goes to 29 million. So the numbers are just skyrocketing. Then you add a pandemic when all the kids are going online for school, and they literally saw sextortion numbers double in the last 12 months. So that's when we knew we needed to tell this story.
Yeah. In fact, they said 8% of American children are targeted with this. And Maria, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's actually 1 in 7 children online who are being sextorted at any given moment. It's a combination of extortion and sex. So you're asking kids for sexual images and you're extorting them for more images or for money. And it's basically happening everywhere and nobody's talking about it.
Well, this is a question to you, Stephen. How come the parents are not more aware of what's happening to their kids online? Why is that?
Oh man, how long you got? One of the things we were really hoping to do is to break down some stereotypes in this film, because Carol Todd, who is in the documentary, she's the mom of Amanda Todd, who is a very famous case of a Canadian teen who ultimately took her own life because of this. And she said, we always think it's going to be somebody else's story until it becomes your story.
Right.
And we had these stereotypes in our mind of it's this guy who still lives in his mom's basement, and that's the perpetrator. And the kids are going to be those that are in the fringes of society, the foster kids, and those that have run away from home. And as we got further into the research for the film, we realized that it couldn't be further from the truth. The Dan Harris case that was unsealed for us by the Department of Justice and Homeland Security. This guy was a Naval Academy graduate, one of the top air-to-air combat Top Gun instructors in the US Navy. He was extorting hundreds of children online, and he had a beautiful wife and 2 young kids at home. So this can happen to everyone. And then the victims are every walk of life, on gaming platforms in their bedroom, on social media, 2-parent households, wealthy, non-wealthy, private schools. I mean, it's happening to everyone. And so that's why we felt that this story had to be told.
Well, Maria, did you find that to be shocking to you, knowing the truth about what's going on with these young people online? And what I mean by online, Facebook and video games and and other apps. For example, I never heard of this app called KIK. Were you surprised about this, Maria?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I realized the extent of the problem. I've heard of, obviously, human trafficking. We all have. I have never heard of sextortion before. Being a mother of 10-year-old and a 13-year-old daughter, for both of us, it was incredibly shocking, and we had to do something about it. At first, we were kind of shocked, and the initial reaction of a person would be like, well, we're not going to talk about it. But as you research the subject more and more, you realize we have to do something about it. And we almost became an activist. I became an activist in the last 2 years, just realizing the scope of the problem and the extent to which parents are unaware. Just to give you an example, Homeland Security told us out of 300 victims in the case of Danielle Harris, only one victim told, and no other child told their parents or law enforcement official what was happening to them. So all of the other children were suffering in silence. And only because one child, HM, told her mom, who went to the police, that's how the case was unsealed. And actually,
Now, well, do you find this a little what word I'm looking for? A little strange that the kids do not talk to their parents at all about the fear that they have?
they're afraid to be in trouble. They're afraid to be isolated even more. They are very ashamed, and they don't understand that everybody makes mistakes. So they, for some reason, they're holding it back, and it's affecting their life, long term and short term. Um, Kids are afraid to get in trouble with their parents more than they're afraid of other things, because they're still young and their brains are still developing. So I kind of feel a lot of empathy for those children, and I wish we would have a way of understanding and explaining to them that even if they made a mistake, there is a safe adult who can help them overcome this.
Yeah. And Stephen, you mentioned Daniel Harris, the pilot, but he did not seem remorseful at all about what he did, and he didn't apologize or anything like that. Why do you think he was like that? He acted like, hey, this is normal.
Yeah, it's really crazy. As we were going through it, we found that often it's like a progressive thing. So oftentimes a perpetrator may have an addiction with pornography. And once that doesn't really satisfy anymore, they need to go into something a little bit more forbidden. And so then they start going into like the child pornography. And so it's like this addiction that self-perpetuates, and they have to have more and more and more. And so when they have a person that has one or two victims, that's very rare. They typically have lots of victims, and they just keep doing it, and they keep wanting more and more images, and it doesn't really stop. And no, he wasn't remorseful at all. And I'm glad that he has been put away for a really long time, so we can't harm
Let's
him.
hope so. They say 50 years, but you know how the system is.
That's true. That's true.
So now, Maria, let me ask you this. Also, it's stated in the documentary that many children or many victims, let me say victims because some of them are not there, at least 18, they do this because they want to feel loved. They want to feel special. They want to feel needed. And do you understand that?
Yeah, I can understand where a young girl would get an attention from what seems on paper as a young, very handsome man who tells her she's pretty, who tells her she's important to him, who tells her what she wants to hear. He reads her online profile and sees what kind of music she likes. So he says he likes that music too. He reads what events she goes to, what sports games. He likes that team too. So he kind of feeds into what she likes to become her love interest, but that person is not a real person. But the young kids have a hard time understanding that, and they also trust adults, and they trust other people more than adults trust other people, because we had more
Yeah.
life experience. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, they are not even aware somebody could be lying to them. If somebody is making them feel special, they would rather believe that that person is for real than that person is not for real.
Yeah. And like you, I got two daughters. They're a little older now. I have one 33, one 37. And I talked to one of my daughters, a 37-year-old Ashley, and I asked her, hey, I said, well, I saw this extraordinary documentary, and I told her what it's about. I said, do you know any of your friends in the past that happened? She said, no. You know, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is not well known, is it?
No, it's not well known as far as general public is concerned. It's very well known to law enforcement officials if you talk to them across the board. They are so tired of fighting these crimes. They're extremely overwhelmed and they don't have enough agents to fight these crimes because the volume is so huge. But no, general public does not know this happens on a regular and how easily it can happen to the next child and
Yeah,
adult matter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Stephen, while you was working with some of the investigators, for example, Josh Taylor, he's a former examiner, and things like that with law enforcement trying to help bring down these predators. Do you find a lot of these law enforcement people feel frustrated because, okay, we doing this, we getting some, but we're not getting the help that we really need? Did you feel that, Stephen, when you were talking with them? And you spent some time with them when you were shooting this stuff.
Oh yeah, no, we really did. And it was really amazing to see. We weren't even sure how open they were going to be with us, because, hey, you don't know who we are. We're filmmakers. Do you really want to talk about this subject? And what we found is they were so open because they are drowning in this. And they are frustrated because it's happening so much. One of the amazing things we've been finding in some of the folks that are on like the We Protect Global Alliance and the National Center that are on the front lines of this all the time is they're realizing that there has to be a shift to prevention, because when law enforcement has to come and knock on the door, those folks are going to be dealing with the ramifications of this for a long, long time. And some, even like Amanda, ended up paying the ultimate price. And so our dream, along with law enforcement, is to create a powerful prevention tool so that it doesn't happen in the first place. And there's not enough of those prevention tools out there. And so that's our goal with the film, is to create something that teens and parents can create a dialogue to destigmatize this, so that you can have a regular conversation, checking in with your kids, understanding what apps they're on. Because law enforcement tells us most of the time they show up at a door, the parents have no idea that the kids were on the app. They had no idea the kids were talking to a stranger. They had no clue. And so we need to try to fix that.
Yeah, they're really surprised that happened. But Maria, let me go back to Amanda. And, I don't want to give too much about the documentary, but she did kill herself. But before she did that, even her classmates started to call her name, or were calling her names like slut and whore, because they saw the pictures. Do you feel that we still stigmatize young ladies more than we do men?
I absolutely agree with that. And I'm kind of shocked how she was treated by her classmates. I feel
Yeah.
like maybe these days it wouldn't be the same. Everybody makes mistakes and everybody's young. She was stigmatized very much. And I think the cyberbullying part of it is also what makes kids keep it secret, because they think, and the perpetrators usually say, if you don't give me more images, if you don't get on camera, I will release your picture and all your friends will see you. And I think they play into the secrecy and control, and that what keeps kids, silent about this issue. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Amanda, because people were bullying her based on one photo that, she produced in the moment of weakness, and it's very sad.
That was very, very sad. But again, like, I got two daughters and you have two daughters and you're a woman yourself. And, I feel that we as a society, we just bring women down much more we do men, and we make them feel worse than we do men when something like this happens. And Stephen, let me ask you this question also. Excuse me. Do you feel that our society will help to eliminate this type of sex crime? Do you think parents really want to get out there and help their kids, and not only their kids, their neighbors, their other relatives? Do you think they really want to do this?
Yeah, I think they do. And I think when people find out that it's actually happening and the scale that it's happening, it takes a village, right? So
Yeah.
if a child is not willing to go and tell their parent, then there may be that safe adult in their life that can be that person that's a safe place. One thing we wanted to make sure that, I'm surrounded by tech right now, and there's nothing inherently bad about technology. It's something that we use, and we're able to have an amazing conversation with you today because of Zoom. And so there's awesome things that can happen. But in the same way that you didn't put your 16-year-old daughter in a car for the first time and set her on the interstate and say, have at it. You probably spent a year with her driving, showing her the road. She had to take a test. She had to learn the parameters, the rules of the road, so that she could be safe in this new freedom. And so we're putting our kids on an information superhighway, and we're not giving them any tools to know how to be safe and what safe relationships should look like. And in the same way, that's very dangerous. And so I think that adults and parents, they want their kids to be safe. No one wants their child to be victimized. And so we're hoping that this film will be a way to start that dialogue of best practices. This is exactly how it happens. This is what you can do to keep your kids safe.
Yeah, and Maria, this film is going to start off at the film festival there in California. But how do you feel that you can really get more and more people to watch this film? Because, a lot of people don't like documentaries. They just want to have some fun watching a movie, and that's it. And many documentaries really don't get a lot of eyes on them. I know I've been in the business for a long time. And I love documentaries because I'm a type of guy who reads nonfiction. I read about real people. I cannot read anything that's not real. That's just me. So how are you going to do this?
So
help spread the word.
We also made a documentary that's not a lecture. It's a true crime documentary. So it has the twists and turns of a normal true crime genre. So I really hope people don't discard us just because they think it's a lecture on how to stay safe online. It's definitely a film that will keep you on the edge of your seat. We are producing on the education side, we are producing small cut down modules that will be available in June on National Center for Missing and Exploited Children on NetSmarts program, where educators and law enforcement officials can download and use in classroom or talk at home, or during their presentations on internet safety and healthy relationships and sextortion. So we are working on that as well. And then on our website, sextortionfilm.com, we will keep everybody updated on upcoming screenings and releases. And also we will have a discussion guide available right before Santa Barbara Festival that produces all kinds of discussion questions you can have at home when you're watching it with a teen, as well as resources, what to do and how to report this crime if this happened to you, if this happened to your friend, ways to call in the cyber tip line or chat with somebody online and tell them what happened to you.
Yeah, they have to. And Stephen, a final question. You also had another statistic in this. 87% of kids sleep with their phones. I will admit, I know my daughter does. My older daughter, she does. Right there by the bed every night. But she's not a child. How can parents help their kids to not be so dependent on their phones?
Well, I can only tell you what I do with my 13-year-old who got her first iPhone for Christmas. And in the midst of making this movie, she probably wished we weren't making this movie because we've become quite strict on the technology. But we don't have phones for our kids that work after 9 p.m. They shut down and become essentially a paperweight. And so that's one big thing. You can't, doesn't really matter if you're sleeping with a paperweight because it can't do anything. And so there's parental controls where you, from 9 p.m. until 9 a.m. every morning, that phone doesn't work. Another thing that I do is, especially on the iOS devices, you can limit how much time an app will work per day before it also shuts down and won't work. So everything from texting to FaceTime to any of these kind of devices, I have a 1 hour time limit set. you know, and every parent can decide for themselves, depending on the age of the child and, you know, what's appropriate for them. For me, I thought an hour a day is good because I don't want it to become an addictive thing. We use it as a tool, not to have the tool control us.
Right.
And have that necessary dopamine hit every time it pings that you have to run and grab it, and you can't be more than 2 feet away from it at any time. And if you start setting those rules that this phone is a tool and don't let it control you, and by not allowing it to be available 24/7, then you start just getting used to having it in another room and it's not, you know, always attached at your hip. So that's what I've done personally. And I think parents will be able to make that decision for themselves, the best way to try to keep it from being a really addictive device.
Yeah, I hope so. And also you talked about the people who are the type of people that pounce on these young kids. They're doctors and lawyers and policemen, clergy. Oh, it's horrible, man. That's really horrible.
And this naval officer was really bright. You know, and kids don't have full executive function. Their brains aren't fully developed until they're 25. So how can we expect them to fully understand when a adult that's very bright is preying on them? And so we have to teach them those tools.
Yeah, we do. Well, Stephen and Maria, thank you very much for spending time with me, Al McGhee, talking about sextortion. Like I said, it's the first time I heard this word. But this is not really the first time I've seen this happen to young people, but not on this scale. I was totally shocked when I was watching this and listening to the experts with their experience in this. And man, you all did a great movie. And like I said, I talked to my daughter about it, or one of my daughters already. I'll talk to the other one about it. Just ask some questions. But man, thank you very much for spending time with me, Al McGhee at yeticket.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
All the time.
Bye.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest movie reviews and interviews. This is your entertainment ticket. yeticket.com. Latest and greatest.